What happens when a girl traded for survival discovers a strength she never knew she had? And the man she was given to begins to feel again for the first time since tragedy. Stay with this story, because the ending, it's going to shock you. The Dakota Territory, 1872. Winter's icy grip had already taken hold of the plains, and for the Mallister family, that meant starvation was knocking. Their small farm was ruined by drought, and now the cold was going to finish the job. 19-year-old Sarah Mallister, with eyes the color of summer wheat, stood watching the snow. Her father was trudging back toward their tiny cabin, but he wasn't alone. Trailing him were several Lakota warriors. At their head, Chief Running Wolf. This was the moment, the thing her father had agreed to weeks ago, the terrifying, inevitable bargain. "They've come for Sarah," her father James announced, his voice broken. "Chief Running Wolf has brought the horse as agreed. A strong horse in exchange for a wife, the only way to save the rest of the family." "It's your duty to the family," James choked out, unable to meet her eyes. They would starve otherwise. Sarah didn't argue. She already knew her fate. "I'll go, Mother," she said, firming her voice. "If it means the family survives, I'll go." Outside, Chief Running Wolf, a man of 40, sat on his horse, utterly impassive. His wife had died 2 winters ago, and he wasn't looking for love. This was a transaction, a practical arrangement to keep his advisors happy. Sarah emerged, a small, trembling figure in a threadbare shawl. She walked with her head high, but the fear was a physical thing. The warrior led forward a magnificent, strong stallion. A horse worth far more than she was, or so it seemed. "The horse as promised," the warrior translated. Her father didn't hesitate. He grabbed the reins, already thinking of the spring plowing. She was helped onto a horse behind a young warrior. Sarah stole one last glance back. Her mother was openly weeping. Her father? He had already led the new horse toward the barn. He was gone. No tears. No looking back. Sarah focused on the broad back of the chief as they rode away. She had to be strong. She had no other choice. The journey was long, cold, and silent. By the time they reached the Lakota village, Sarah was numb with fear. The village was massive, dozens of teepees lit by flickering fires. The moment they rode in, curious faces emerged. Children pointed. Women whispered. Sarah felt their stares like a physical weight pressing on her skin. Running Wolf dismounted and spoke to an elderly woman with deep lines in her face and eyes sharp with suspicion. "This is Singing Bird, the chief's mother. You will stay in her teepee tonight," the translator said. Singing Bird pointed to a pile of furs. "Sleep. Tomorrow, new life." Sarah lay down, wrapped in furs that smelled of smoke and strange herbs. She was the chief's future wife, but he hadn't even looked at her. Was he cruel? Would she ever see her mother again? Sleep evaded her. The uncertainty was worse than the cold. She shivered, waiting for the unknown of tomorrow. Dawn broke, and Singing Bird was already there. "Up! Much work!" "What am I to do?" Sarah asked, her voice a small whisper. The older woman's answer was simple, direct, and unnerving. "Learn. Learn ways of Lakota. Learn to be wife of chief." The day was a blur of unfamiliar, backbreaking tasks. Tending the fire, preparing meals, identifying medicinal plants. Her hands, already calloused from farm work, blistered all over again from the new labors. The other women watched, some with curiosity, others with thinly veiled hostility. Running Wolf? He was gone, out with a hunting party. Sarah was both relieved and anxious about his return. What would he demand? As the sun began to set, Singing Bird gave her a bundle of soft deerskin clothing. "Wash. White woman clothes not good here." Sarah stripped by the brutally cold stream, scrubbing away her old life. When she put on the Lakota dress and moccasins, something felt different. Stronger. "Better," Singing Bird approved. "Now go to Chief's teepee. He returned soon." Sarah's heart was a frantic drum. The chief's dwelling was large, elaborately decorated with weapons, shields, and beautiful hides. She busied herself preparing the evening meal, her hands shaking. Then, he ducked through the entrance. Running Wolf stopped. His dark, unreadable eyes took in her transformed appearance. The new clothes, the cleaned face, the attempt at composure. For a long moment, they just stared at each other. The tension was palpable. "I've prepared food," she finally said. "Good," he replied in heavily accented English. "Hungry." They ate in silence, the steam from the bowls thick in the air. Sarah stole glances. He was proud, sharp, and intense. A scar ran along his left temple. He missed nothing. After the meal, he spoke. "My mother says you work hard today. Good." "I want to learn," Sarah said, choosing her words carefully. "I want to understand your ways." A flash of surprise crossed his face. "Why?" he asked, blunt and direct. "This is my home now," she stated simply. "I should learn how to live here." Running Wolf studied her. Then, he nodded once, a sliver of acknowledgement. "Tomorrow I show you village. You meet people." That night, they slept with the fire between them. But Sarah felt his eyes in the darkness. He was no longer looking at cargo. He was looking at her. Weeks turned into months. Sarah adapted with a ferocious determination that surprised everyone, most of all herself. She learned to tan hides, identify edible plants, and even began picking up fragments of the Lakota language. Singing Bird, though still stern, became a patient teacher. The tribe's women began to accept her, especially after she earned their grudging respect by instinctively saving a child who'd fallen into the river. The child's mother, Rainflower, became her first true friend. "The chief watches you," Rainflower told her one day, a knowing smile on her face. "Not like before." "What do you mean?" Sarah asked. "Before he looks at you like trade thing," Rainflower explained. "Now he looks at you like woman." It was true. Running Wolf had started teaching her to ride, his strong hands guiding hers. He listened when she spoke. He even explained ancient tribal customs. But the fire still burned between their sleeping places, a physical and symbolic barrier. One evening, watching the sunset paint the plains, Sarah had to know. "May I ask you something?" "Why did you trade for me?" she finally asked. "There must be many Lakota women who would be honored to be your wife." Running Wolf was silent for so long that the air crackled. "After my wife died, heart became like winter ice. Advisors say chief needs wife. I did not care who." He paused, and his eyes met hers directly. "But now I think Great Spirit had plan." "What plan?" she whispered, her heart hammering. He didn't answer with words. Instead, he reached out, his fingertips gently brushing a strand of hair from her face. The simple touch sent a shock through her. This wasn't a chief or a captor. This was a man. "You are not what I expected, Sarah of the Malisters," he said, his voice low and softer than she'd ever heard it. But before she could even process the words, shouts erupted from the edge of the village, riders approaching, white men, and their intentions were clearly not peaceful. Running Wolf was on his feet in a single, fluid motion. "Stay here," he commanded, moving toward the commotion. Sarah watched, her throat tight with fear. She recognized one of the men immediately, Benjamin Harris, a treacherous trader who had often visited her father's farm. What were they doing here? The confrontation was tense, the gestures heated. Finally, Running Wolf pointed fiercely away from the village. The white men turned and rode off, but not before Harris looked directly toward the chief's teepee and saw Sarah. When Running Wolf returned, his face was thunderous. "Those men," he said, his English thick with fury. "They come to buy you back." Sarah felt the ground tilt. "My father sent them." "Yes. They offer 2 horses now," he said. His eyes searched her face. "You want to go?" The question hung there, impossibly heavy. 2 months ago, she would have sprinted back. Now. The thought filled her with a terrible, unexpected conflict. "What did you tell them?" she asked quietly. "I say you are not trade thing. You are my wife." His voice softened just a fraction. But choice must be yours. Sarah looked around at the village that had become familiar, at the people who had begun to accept her. Then she looked at the man before her, whose coldness had melted into something else entirely. "I don't want to go," she said, the certainty in her voice surprising even her. "My place is here now, with you." The ice in Running Wolf's eyes shattered. He looked at her not as a chief, but as a man who had been given a second chance at life. Spring came, bringing life to the plains and renewed tensions between the settlers and the Lakota. Government agents were pushing deeper, making promises they knew they'd break. "They speak with forked tongues," Running Wolf said one evening. "They say peace with one breath and speak of taking our land with the next." He needed help. "You understand white man's words. Would you help me speak with them?" Sarah felt the weight of his trust. "Of course," she said. "But know that not all white men will listen, even if they understand your words perfectly." The opportunity came fast. A government delegation arrived, flanked by soldiers. Sarah stood beside Running Wolf, heart pounding, but composed. The lead negotiator, a thin man named Crawford, with cold eyes, seemed startled by her. "Mrs. Mallister, what are you doing here?" "My name is Sarah Running Wolf now," she corrected him firmly. "I am the chief's wife and his translator." The negotiations were brutal. Sarah translated faithfully, but subtly guided both sides toward clarity, preventing devastating misinterpretations. She watched Running Wolf, who watched her with quiet pride. The respect in his eyes deepened with every careful translation. By sunset, a small, fragile victory was achieved, a temporary agreement. But as the government men left, Crawford cornered Sarah. "You could be valuable to the Bureau of Indian Affairs," he murmured, his voice low. "We would compensate you well for information that might help prevent, shall we say, unfortunate conflicts." "You're asking me to spy on my husband and his people," Sarah stated, her blood turning to ice. Crawford pressed a folded piece of paper into her hand. "I'm offering you a chance to save lives." Sarah didn't hesitate. She waited until the delegation was gone, then told Running Wolf everything. He took the paper and cast it into the fire. "They will try to use you because you walk between two worlds." "My loyalty is here with you and the people," she said, her voice full of conviction. That night, everything changed. Running Wolf moved to sit beside her, his hand finding hers. "I thought I bought a woman to keep my teepee and cook my food," he said quietly. "I did not expect to find someone who would stand beside me as an equal." "And is that what I am to you now? An equal?" "You are more," he replied, his voice deepening. "You are the woman who brought spring back to my heart after long winter." He kissed her. A promise. A prayer. A declaration. "I love you," she whispered. "And I love you, my brave one," he responded, before adding something in Lakota, words she didn't know, but whose meaning she felt in her soul. The barriers fell away. They were husband and wife, finally and truly. The peace didn't last. Rumors of increasing military presence and forced reservations swept through the territory like a plague. Running Wolf spent long hours in council. "They will come for us eventually. The white man's hunger for land never ends." "What will we do?" Sarah asked, clinging to his warmth. "We cannot fight them all." He sighed. "I think we must find another way." An idea sparked in Sarah's mind. A desperate, long-shot plan. "My father's brother, my Uncle Edward, is a lawyer in Washington," she revealed. "He spoke of sympathetic ears in the government." Running Wolf's eyes were skeptical. "Would he listen? You were traded away by his own brother." "My uncle never approved of what my father did. He would help us, I believe, if only to right what he saw as a wrong." "Then write to him," Running Wolf decided. Sarah poured her heart onto the paper, explaining her love, her loyalty, and the tribe's desperate situation. A passing trader agreed to post the letter. They waited, suspended between hope and despair. The response, a month later, was a miracle. Uncle Edward had not only received her letter, but had arranged for a special commission to hear Running Wolf's case, bypassing the corrupt local agents. They were coming within the fortnight. Hope bloomed, but with it came danger. The corrupt agents, the land speculators, and the military, they all stood to lose their fortunes. Sarah was gathering herbs by the river. The light was fading. Suddenly, a hand clamped over her mouth. She was dragged into the trees. "Stop fighting, girl!" a familiar, hate-filled voice hissed. It was Benjamin Harris, the traitor. "I'm doing you a favor. I'm taking you home. My home is here." Sarah twisted, fighting him. "Living like a savage, spreading your legs for that red devil? Have you no shame?" He snarled, his face twisted with disgust. "The special commission your uncle arranged? It's been canceled. Military solution now. They'll be here by tomorrow." The bombshell hit her harder than his grip. The commission was a lie. Soldiers were coming. Harris was distracted by his own malice. Sarah, drawing on months of hard labor, drove her elbow into his stomach. As he gasped, she brought her knee up hard into his face. Blood streamed down his nose. "You little wildcat!" he roared, reaching for his belt knife. She ran, but he caught her skirt, yanking her down. She fell hard. Harris loomed over her, the knife gleaming. This was the end. But then, a war cry split the air. Running Wolf charged toward them, mounted on his fastest horse, a hunting knife glinting in his hand. Harris spun, his face draining of color. Too late. Running Wolf leaped from his horse, tackling Harris to the ground. The struggle was desperate, but the traitor was no match for the chief's skill. In moments, Running Wolf had him pinned, knife pressed to his throat. "Give me one reason not to kill you," the chief growled, his English perfect in his fury. "Wait! Don't kill him!" Sarah rushed over. "He said something about soldiers coming. The commission is canceled." Running Wolf eased the blade. "Speak! What soldiers?" "Cavalry. 2 companies. Orders to relocate your people to the reservation at Fort Thompson. They'll be here by tomorrow, sundown." Harris stammered, terror replacing his bravado. The commission was overruled. The military was taking charge. They had mere hours. They bound Harris and brought him before the tribal council. His words confirmed their worst fears. "We must prepare to leave," said Greyhawk, the eldest. But where would they go? The hunting grounds were gone. Running Wolf stood, his decision clear. "I will ride tonight to speak with Blue Cloud of the Yankton tribe. He offered us refuge." "That's a 2-day ride," Sarah protested. "The soldiers will be here before you return." "Then you must lead our people," Running Wolf told her, his voice firm. "You know both worlds. You can buy time with words while the tribe prepares to move." A wave of murmurs rippled through the elders. A woman? A white woman? Unprecedented. But they had seen her courage. "I will do it," Sarah said, drawing herself up. "But what of him?" She gestured to the bound traitor. "Keep him as a hostage," the chief decided. "His presence may give the soldiers pause." Running Wolf pulled Sarah aside. "I have something for you." He pressed a small, beautifully carved medallion into her palm. "It belonged to my grandmother, a woman of great courage. It will remind you that you carry the strength of our ancestors." "Come back to me," she whispered, her eyes filling with tears. "I married you for a horse," he said softly, cupping her face. "But I would give all the horses on the plains to keep you safe now." Their kiss was a desperate promise. Then, Running Wolf was gone, riding hard into the darkness, leaving Sarah with an entire tribe's survival resting on her shoulders. The night was a whirlwind of frantic, silent preparation. Teepees were dismantled. Only essentials were packed. The elderly and the children would leave at first light, a small group of warriors escorting them north toward the Yankton territory. Sarah, dressed in her deerskin, wearing the chief's grandmother's medallion, felt a calm she didn't know she possessed. She oversaw the movement, spoke with the elders, and organized the final defenses. By midday, the village was eerily quiet. Only a small, determined group remained. Sarah, Singing Bird, Rainflower, a handful of warriors, and the bound Benjamin Harris. Then they heard it. The faint, rhythmic sound of military drums. The cavalry had arrived. Sarah walked to the village entrance, the cold muzzle of a rifle pressed to Harris's back by one of the remaining warriors. Her heart hammered, but her face was a mask of composure. 2 companies of soldiers, maybe 100 men, led by a stern-faced major named Ellison. Behind him was the hated negotiator, Crawford, his smile a cruel slash across his face. "I told you she'd be valuable," Crawford sneered to the major. "Get the woman, and let's get the savages moving." Major Ellison spurred his horse forward. "You, woman! You are under arrest. Where is the chief? We have orders to take you all to Fort Thompson." Sarah stepped forward, her voice ringing out, clear and strong, despite the pounding in her chest. "I am Sarah Running Wolf, wife of the chief. The chief is away on tribal business. I am authorized to speak on behalf of the Lakota people." She held up the medallion. First twist, the symbol of power. Ellison's brow furrowed. "Tribal business? This land is now under military jurisdiction. You have until sundown to begin moving." "That is unacceptable, Major," Sarah countered. "And if you move one step closer, your man, Mr. Harris, dies." She nodded to the warrior, who pressed the rifle hard into Harris's neck. Harris let out a desperate animal whimper. Twist 2. She's using the traitor as a tool. Crawford gasped. "You little witch! You can't do that!" "He is a traitor who lied about the commission and helped arrange a military ambush on a peaceful people," Sarah said, her voice like steel. "He is an enemy of the Lakota nation, and he will be held until the chief returns." Major Ellison hesitated. He wanted to avoid bloodshed, and he certainly didn't want to explain why he'd failed to secure one of the white agitators. "Very well," Ellison said, eyes narrowed. "We will wait until sundown, no longer. Tell me, Mrs. Running Wolf, where is your people's camp?" "The people are preparing a meeting place for the chief's return," Sarah lied smoothly. "They will move nowhere until the chief has had his say. You can wait here, Major, or you can leave, but you will not enter this village." She stood firm, the sole defender of an empty camp, her lie massive, her resolve absolute. The risk was terrifying, but it was the only way to buy time. The standoff lasted for hours. The sun began its agonizing descent. Sarah talked, and talked, and talked. She used her knowledge of the white man's law, her understanding of the military structure, and the mere implication that a full tribe was hiding just beyond the ridge. She kept one eye on Harris, whose bound, terrified face was her greatest asset. But Crawford was slippery. He rode closer to the main force, returning with a sneer. "Major Ellison is losing patience, woman," he gloated. "And I know where the rest of your precious tribe is. Your father, Mallister, told me everything about your uncle's plan. He's been spying for me. He's the one who gave the tip that your tribe was planning a move." Twist 3. Her own father had betrayed her. Not only trading her, but now actively spying on the tribe she had come to love. Sarah felt a stab of genuine pain, but she shoved it down. She had a job to do. "My father's words mean nothing, traitor," she spat. "He sold his own daughter for a horse. What loyalty does he have to anyone? The chief has already left to meet with an official U.S. delegation near the Yankton Reservation." Twist 4. She claimed the chief was meeting a legitimate delegation. Another massive lie. "He's riding to secure the Yankton alliance, which would mean an immediate war you are not prepared for." "You want to risk a conflict with 2 tribes, Major? Over one evening's delay? I suggest you wait for the chief's return and hear his terms." The major looked at Crawford, then at the bound Harris. He looked uncertain. He was only ordered to relocate one small tribe, not ignite a regional war. "Major," Crawford insisted, his voice cracking with urgency, "she's lying. The Yankton are neutral. They are out of food. This is all a bluff." "I do not bluff, Major," Sarah said, holding her gaze. "The decision is yours. Wait until morning, or attack an empty camp and risk a 2-front war, all because of the word of a known traitor you're holding at gunpoint." She had pushed him to the absolute limit. But Crawford was desperate. He had to expose her lie. He suddenly yelled, pointing, "Look! Footprints! Fresh tracks leading north! The tribe is moving! She's stalling for time!" Twist 5. Crawford, in his desperation, had actually found the single piece of evidence that gave her away. The major's face hardened. He was done waiting. "Mount up! We move out now! We'll track them to the north! Get Harris!" Sarah's heart sank. She had failed. They were going to catch the elderly and the children. But before the major could give the order, A figure on horseback burst from the woods far to the north, riding like the wind, kicking up a trail of snow and dust. "Running Wolf!" she screamed. Running Wolf arrived at a furious, unstoppable gallop, pulling his horse to a spectacular halt between the cavalry and Sarah. He was covered in 2 days of grime, but his eyes were blazing. Twist 6. He was a full day early. "Stop!" Running Wolf commanded in perfect, powerful English that stunned the major. "Chief Running Wolf," Major Ellison stammered, "you are outnumbered, your people are gone, and you are under orders to relocate." "My people are not gone. They are waiting for me to conclude our negotiations," the chief said, projecting absolute authority. "I have just returned from the Yankton. They await my word on whether we will join them in war or in peace." He looked directly at Sarah, a flicker of pure pride in his eyes. He had understood her game. "My wife is right. You have a choice. Wait, or ignite a war that will cost you far more than this reservation land." Crawford, his face purple with rage, lunged forward. "Don't listen to him, Major! They're lying! They're weak! Arrest them!" But as Crawford lunged, one of Running Wolf's warriors, the one guarding Harris, saw his chance. In a lightning-fast move, he swung the butt of his rifle and knocked the knife from Harris's hands, then stepped back, leaving Harris exposed. Twist 7. Harris was a failed traitor, now useless. Running Wolf looked at his wife, then at the 2 white men. He knew what he had to do. He turned to the major. "You want my people? You want peace? Here is your answer." He looked at Sarah. "My wife is an honest woman. You trust her word, Major. And she has told you that Harris is a traitor. You have broken your treaty, and you came to attack us. I will give you peace, but I will not give you our dignity." He pointed a finger at Crawford. "The moment you leave, Major, I will release this spy, and he will take word to my people. If you pursue them, we will come back and fight. If you let them go, we will leave this territory for good. The choice is peace or war, right now." Ellison looked at the silent, defiant warrior holding the traitor. He looked at the chief, whose powerful command of English and tactical position was undeniable. He had been sent to avoid a war, not start one. "Very well, Chief," Major Ellison said, defeated. "We will not pursue your people. We will report that this land is empty, and that the tribe has moved on." Running Wolf nodded once. "Good. Then this conversation is over." He then looked at Sarah, and a slow, tender smile touched his lips. "My brave one," he whispered in Lakota, lifting her from the ground and embracing her fiercely. Justice was served. The cavalry wheeled their horses and rode away, leaving the silent camp behind. The moment they were gone, Running Wolf released Harris, giving him a powerful kick that sent him sprawling. "Go home to your father. Tell him the price for a daughter is much higher than 1 horse." Sarah and Running Wolf watched the defeated men ride into the sunset. They were safe. The tribe was safe. The next morning they rode north, following the faint trail of their people. They found the elderly and the children safe in the Yankton camp, where Blue Cloud had welcomed them. Singing Bird hugged Sarah fiercely. "You saved us, daughter." Sarah and Running Wolf stayed with the Yankton, where they worked tirelessly to secure their position, using the promise of their uncle's influence in Washington to ensure the agent at the new reservation treated them with respect. The chief's heart, once frozen by winter, was now full of the spring Sarah had brought him. He was no longer just a warrior, but a diplomat and a husband. Sarah, the girl traded for survival, had become the savior of a nation and the beloved wife of its chief. She walked proudly between 2 worlds, taking the best from both, and had forged a new life out of the worst possible beginning. She was Sarah Running Wolf. She found her strength not in a cabin, but on the open plains, standing up to an army with nothing but her words and her love. If you enjoyed this incredible story of loyalty, strength, and unexpected love, don't forget to subscribe. Hit that like button and let me know in the comments. What would you have done if your own father had betrayed you? And tell me where you're watching from. Your support keeps these stories coming. We'll see you in the next epic tale.